the Saturday afternoon sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Vanessa Mitchell's townhouse in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Washington, D.C., casting golden light across the living room filled with people celebrating her 42nd birthday. Vanessa stood near the kitchen island, a glass of sparkling cider in her hand. She'd given up alcohol years ago, watching her guests mingle. Friends from her book club, neighbors, colleagues from the nonprofit where she worked as director of community outreach, her younger sister Denise, who'd driven up from Richmond, and her daughter Simone. 23 years old, beautiful, educated, and lately, increasingly cold toward her mother in ways that Vanessa couldn't quite understand. "Mom, you okay?" Denise appeared at her elbow, concern etched on her face. At 38, Denise was 4 years younger, but often acted like the protective older sister. "You look tired." "I'm fine," Vanessa assured her, though it was only half true. She'd been having headaches lately, moments of confusion that scared her more than she wanted to admit. Twice last week, she'd forgotten where she parked her car. Yesterday, she'd called Denise by their late mother's name. It was probably just stress. Vanessa had been working 70-hour weeks trying to secure funding for the youth center expansion. Stress caused memory issues. That's what she kept telling herself. "Where's Simone?" Denise asked, scanning the room. "Outside on the deck, I think, with Marcus." Marcus was Simone's boyfriend of 2 years, a smooth-talking investment banker who Vanessa had never quite warmed to. There was something calculating in his eyes, something that set off her maternal alarm bells. The party continued around them. Laughter, conversation, the clink of glasses. Regina, her best friend since college, had outdone herself with the decorations. Elegant, but not overdone. Cream and gold balloons, a beautiful 3-tier cake from that expensive bakery in Georgetown, a playlist of Vanessa's favorite neo-soul and R&B flowing through the speakers. "Speech, speech," someone called out, and soon others joined in. Vanessa smiled and set down her glass, moving to the center of the living room where she could see everyone. Her eyes swept across the familiar faces, people who'd supported her through her divorce 8 years ago, through the struggles of single motherhood, through building her career from administrative assistant to director. "Thank you all for being here," Vanessa began, her voice warm and genuine. 42 feels like a milestone somehow. Not quite the big 50, but close enough to make you think about your life, about what matters. She paused, her gaze finding Simone, who'd just come in from the deck with Marcus. "What matters most to me is family, friendship, and purpose. You all represent that, especially my daughter Simone. Being your mother has been the greatest joy of my life." Simone's expression was unreadable, but she raised her champagne glass slightly in acknowledgement. "So here's to another year of love, laughter, and making a difference in our community," Vanessa concluded. "Thank you for celebrating with me." Everyone applauded and raised their glasses. Regina started cutting the cake while Denise began organizing the gift table. Vanessa made her way through the crowd, accepting hugs and birthday wishes, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It had been building for months, this tension with Simone, this distance that Vanessa couldn't bridge no matter how hard she tried. It had started around the time Simone graduated from Howard University last year. She'd moved back home temporarily while looking for jobs, but the warm, close relationship they'd always shared had cooled. Simone became secretive, spending hours on her phone, going out at odd times, being vague about her plans. When Vanessa asked questions, Simone accused her of being controlling. When Vanessa expressed concern, Simone called her paranoid. And lately, there had been these little comments, jabs about Vanessa's forgetfulness, suggestions that she was getting old, implications that she couldn't handle things on her own anymore. "Vanessa," her colleague James approached with his wife. "Great party." "Hey, I wanted to run something by you about the grant proposal." "James, it's her birthday," his wife chided. "No work talk." They laughed, but Vanessa's attention had been caught by something else. Through the window, she could see Simone and Marcus on the deck. their heads close together, talking intensely about something. Marcus kept glancing back at the house, and Simone's expression was calculating. That was the only word for it. A wave of dizziness hit Vanessa suddenly. She steadied herself against the wall. "Mom?" Denise was there immediately. "What's wrong?" "Just a headache. I'm fine." "You've been having a lot of those lately. Have you seen a doctor?" "It's stress, Dee. I'm fine." But Denise's face showed she didn't believe it. "Promise me you'll make an appointment. Please." "I will," Vanessa agreed, though she'd been putting it off for weeks. She was afraid of what a doctor might say, afraid that these memory lapses meant something serious. The party continued, but Vanessa found herself watching Simone more closely. Her daughter was on her phone constantly, stepping away to take calls, whispering to Marcus. At one point, Vanessa saw her daughter photographing different areas of the townhouse, the living room, the kitchen, even going upstairs where the bedrooms were. When Simone came back down, Vanessa caught her arm gently. "Honey, is everything okay? You seem distracted." Simone's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Everything's fine, Mom. Just taking some pictures of the party, for social media." "You went upstairs. There's no party upstairs. I was using the bathroom." "God, Mom, why are you interrogating me at your own birthday party?" Simone pulled her arm away, her voice just loud enough that a few nearby guests glanced over. Vanessa felt her face heat with embarrassment. "I wasn't interrogating. I was just asking." "You're always just asking," Simone said, her tone sharp. "Maybe if you focused on your own life instead of micromanaging mine, you'd be happier." She walked away, leaving Vanessa standing there, stung and confused. Several guests had definitely heard that exchange. Regina appeared at her side almost immediately. "That girl is going through something," Regina said quietly. "Don't take it personally." "How can I not take it personally? She's my daughter, and lately she treats me like I'm her enemy." Vanessa's voice cracked slightly. "I don't know what I did wrong." "You didn't do anything wrong. She's 23 and figuring out her life. This phase will pass." But it didn't feel like a phase. It felt like something darker, something Vanessa couldn't quite name. As the party wound down and guests began leaving, Vanessa found herself exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. She sat on the couch, accepting goodbye hugs, watching as people filed out with their party favors and leftover cake. Simone and Marcus were among the last to leave. They stood in the foyer, and Vanessa noticed Marcus checking his watch repeatedly, as if he had somewhere important to be. "Thanks for coming, sweetheart," Vanessa said to her daughter, trying once more to bridge the gap between them. "It meant a lot to have you here." "Of course, Mom." Simone's tone was pleasant but distant, the way you'd talk to an acquaintance rather than your mother. "Happy birthday." She leaned in for a perfunctory hug, and Vanessa tried not to notice how quickly Simone pulled away. As they turned to leave, Vanessa heard Marcus say something to Simone in a low voice. She couldn't make out the words, but Simone's response was clearer, though she clearly thought she was speaking quietly enough that her mother wouldn't hear. "Soon. We just have to wait a little longer. The way she's been forgetting things, mixing stuff up. It's perfect timing. Everyone's already noticing." Vanessa's blood ran cold. She stood frozen as Simone and Marcus left, the door closing behind them. What did that mean? Wait for what? Perfect timing for what? "Nessa, you look like you've seen a ghost." Denise came out of the kitchen where she'd been helping Regina pack up leftover food. "What happened?" I think I just heard Simone say something strange. About me forgetting things. About timing." Denise and Regina exchanged glances. "What exactly did she say?" Regina asked carefully. Vanessa repeated what she'd heard, and both women's faces grew serious. "That doesn't sound good," Denise said slowly. "Nessa, I'm going to say something, and I don't want you to get defensive, but I need you to really hear me." "What?" "I think Simone might be planning something. Something involving you and probably your house, your money. I've noticed things too. The way she asks about your finances, about whether you've updated your will, about what would happen if you got sick. Vanessa sank back onto the couch. You think my daughter is… what? Trying to have me declared incompetent? Trying to take advantage of my memory issues? I'm saying be careful, Denise said. I'm saying those memory issues you've been having? Maybe get them checked out by a real doctor, not just assume it's stress. And maybe start paying closer attention to what Simone is doing. I can't believe this, Vanessa whispered. She's my daughter. I raised her alone. I worked 2 jobs to send her to Howard. I gave her everything. I know, honey, Regina said gently, sitting beside her. But sometimes people change. Sometimes money and opportunity corrupt even good people. I'm not saying that's definitely what's happening, but I am saying you need to protect yourself. After they left, Vanessa sat alone in her townhouse, surrounded by the remnants of her birthday party, deflating balloons, empty glasses, the half-eaten cake. She thought about Simone as a little girl, the way she'd crawl into Vanessa's bed during thunderstorms, the way she'd bring home straight A's and beam with pride, the way she'd hugged her mother so tight the day she got her Howard acceptance letter. Where had that girl gone? And who was this cold stranger who'd taken her place? Vanessa's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check your bank account. Now. Her hands shook as she opened her banking app. At first, everything looked normal. Then she clicked on her savings account. The one she'd been building for years, her security, her retirement fund. $47,000 was missing. A transfer, made 3 days ago, to an account she didn't recognize. Vanessa's heart hammered in her chest as she scrolled through recent transactions. Small amounts had been disappearing for months. $500 here, $1,000 there. Amounts small enough that she'd attributed them to her own forgetfulness, thinking maybe she'd spent the money and forgotten. But this, $47,000 didn't just disappear. She called the bank's fraud hotline immediately, but it was Saturday evening, and she got an automated message saying to call back during business hours or report it online. Another text from the unknown number. Your daughter has your passwords. She's been draining your account slowly for 6 months. The big transfer was her getting greedy. I thought you should know before it's too late. A friend. Vanessa stared at her phone, her entire body numb with shock. Her daughter, her Simone, had been stealing from her for 6 months. And based on what Vanessa had overheard tonight, Simone wasn't done. She was planning something bigger, something that involved Vanessa's forgetfulness and perfect timing. Vanessa stood and walked to her home office, a small room off the living room where she kept her important documents. She opened the filing cabinet and pulled out her will, her power of attorney documents, her insurance policies. Everything listed Simone as her primary beneficiary, her power of attorney, her executor. Of course it did. Simone was her only child. Who else would Vanessa leave everything to? But now she needed to think very carefully about what to do next. Because if her daughter was willing to steal from her, what else was Simone willing to do? Vanessa sat at her desk as the sun set over D.C., casting long shadows across her office, and made a decision. She would find out exactly what Simone was planning, and she would stop it, whatever it took. Monday morning, Vanessa sat in Dr. Patricia Okonkwo's office at Georgetown University Hospital, waiting for test results. She'd called first thing and gotten an emergency appointment after explaining her symptoms. The memory lapses, the confusion, the headaches. Dr. Okonkwo, a Nigerian neurologist in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner, reviewed the MRI scans and cognitive test results on her computer screen. Ms. Mitchell, I have good news, Dr. Okonkwo said finally. Your brain scan shows no signs of dementia, Alzheimer's, or any degenerative condition. Your cognitive function tests are all within normal range, Actually, above average for your age. Vanessa felt relief flood through her. Then what's causing the memory issues? Stress, most likely. Severe stress can absolutely cause memory problems, difficulty concentrating, confusion. You mentioned working long hours, recent family tension. Your body is telling you it's overwhelmed. Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward. But I want to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Is there any possibility someone is gaslighting you? Making you think you're more forgetful than you actually are? Vanessa's breath caught. What makes you ask that? Because when I asked you to recount specific incidents of forgetting, many of them involved someone else telling you that you'd forgotten something. Appointments you supposedly missed, conversations you supposedly had. But you couldn't independently remember the forgetting itself, if that makes sense. You're remembering being told you forgot, not the actual forgetting. Vanessa sat back, her mind racing. My daughter has been pointing out my forgetfulness a lot lately, telling me I'm getting confused, that I'm repeating myself, that I'm forgetting plans we made. And do you remember these plans independently? Vanessa paused, really thinking about it. No. Actually, I don't. I only remember her saying we had plans and me forgetting them. Dr. Okonkwo nodded slowly. I'm not saying this is definitely what's happening. But in my experience, when a patient presents with memory concerns that don't match the clinical evidence, and there's a family member who stands to benefit from the patient being declared incompetent, it warrants investigation. She's been stealing from me, Vanessa said quietly. I found out Saturday. Thousands of dollars over 6 months, and a large transfer of $47,000 last week. Dr. Okonkwo's face hardened. Ms. Mitchell, I think you need to speak with both the police and an attorney. Today. I'll document in your medical records that you show no signs of cognitive impairment. That documentation may be important if anyone tries to claim you're not competent to manage your own affairs. After leaving the hospital, Vanessa sat in her car in the parking garage and called Denise. The doctor says there's nothing wrong with me, Vanessa said without preamble. She thinks Simone might be gaslighting me, making me think I'm forgetful so she can... What? Have me declared incompetent? Oh my God, Denise breathed. Nessa, you need to get a lawyer, right now. I know. But first, I need to understand what's happening, what Simone is planning. I can't go to the police or a lawyer with just suspicions and a bank transfer. I need proof. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I need to play along for a few more days. Act confused, act forgetful. See what Simone does next. And I need help. Whatever you need, I'm here. I need you to help me set up some security cameras in my house, hidden ones. If Simone is coming in when I'm not home, if she's doing things to make me seem incompetent, I want it on camera. Done. I'll come up tonight. What else? I need to change all my passwords, move my money to accounts Simone doesn't know about, and I need to talk to a lawyer about getting her removed from my will and power of attorney documents. I know someone. Camille Jefferson. She's an estate attorney and she's tough. She helped our cousin Marcus when his kids tried to pull something similar. I'll call her. That evening, while Simone thought her mother was at a work event, Vanessa and Denise installed 4 small cameras in strategic locations, one in the living room, one in Vanessa's bedroom, one in her office, and one in the kitchen. They were tiny, expensive, and completely invisible unless you knew where to look. If she's coming in here, we'll know, Denise said, showing Vanessa how to access the camera feeds from her phone. Everything records to the cloud automatically. Tuesday morning, Vanessa met with Camille Jefferson, a sharp-eyed black woman in her 60s who'd been practicing estate law for 40 years. Your daughter has been stealing from you. You suspect she's trying to have you declared incompetent, and she's your power of attorney, Camille summarized after Vanessa explained everything. Ms. Mitchell, you're in a very dangerous position. If Simone moves forward with a competency claim before you protect yourself, this could get very ugly. What do I need to do? First, we revoke her power of attorney immediately. and put your sister in that role instead. Second, we change your will. Third, I'm going to recommend we set up an irrevocable trust for your assets, with you as the beneficiary and your sister as the trustee. That way, even if someone somehow got you declared incompetent, they couldn't access your money. Won't Simone know something's wrong when she finds out she's been removed from everything? Not if we file the paperwork but don't tell her yet. We date everything, have it notarized, file it with the court, but we don't serve her notice. That way, legally, you're protected. But she doesn't know it yet. Then, when you have enough evidence of what she's planning, we can decide whether to pursue criminal charges or just cut her off. It took 3 hours, but by the time Vanessa left Camille's office, her legal protections were in place. Simone no longer had power of attorney. The will was changed. Now everything would go to a trust with Denise as the trustee, with instructions to provide for Simone only if Denise determined she wasn't involved in any criminal activity against her mother. Vanessa felt both empowered and heartbroken. She was protecting herself from her own daughter. That night, Vanessa got her first hit from the cameras. At 11:47 p.m., while Vanessa was asleep upstairs, the living room camera caught Simone letting herself into the townhouse with her own key. She was alone, moving quietly through the space. She went directly to Vanessa's office. Vanessa, watching the feed from her phone in bed, held her breath as she watched her daughter rifle through papers, photograph documents, and then, shockingly, take a bottle of pills from her purse and place them in Vanessa's desk drawer, carefully positioning them to look like they'd been there for a while. Vanessa crept to the stairs and peeked down. She could see the light on in her office, could hear Simone moving around. After 20 minutes, Simone left as quietly as she'd come. The next morning, Vanessa went to her office and found the pill bottle in her drawer. The label read, Alprazolam Tumagar for anxiety. Take as directed. The prescription was in Vanessa's name, from a doctor she'd never heard of, dated 2 months ago. Vanessa had never taken anxiety medication in her life. She called Denise immediately. She planted pills in my desk, prescription pills in my name that I never actually got prescribed. She's building a case, Denise said, her voice tight with anger. She's creating evidence that you're on medication, probably planning to claim you're addicted or that the medication is affecting your memory. Nessa, this is serious. This is beyond just stealing. This is identity fraud, prescription fraud, and God knows what else. I want to confront her. Not yet. We need more. We need to know what her endgame is. The answer came that Friday afternoon. Vanessa was at work when Simone called. Hey, Mom, can I come by tonight? I want to talk to you about something important. Of course, honey. Is everything okay? Yeah, it's fine. There are some things we need to discuss. About your health. There it was. The pretense of concern masking something darker. Come by around 7, Vanessa said. I'll order dinner. She immediately called Denise. It's happening tonight. Whatever she's planning, she's making her move. I'll be there, Denise said, hidden in the guest room, recording everything. That evening, Vanessa ordered Thai food and set the dining room table, her heart pounding. She'd positioned her phone on the bookshelf, angled to record the conversation. The hidden cameras were running. Denise was upstairs with her own recording device. Whatever happened tonight, there would be proof. Simone arrived at 7:15, Marcus in tow. That was the first surprise. Vanessa hadn't expected him to come. Marcus wanted to be here for this conversation, Simone explained, her tone suggesting this was somehow normal. He's been supportive during this difficult time. Difficult time? Vanessa asked, playing along. What difficult time, sweetheart? Simone and Marcus exchanged glances. They sat down at the table, but neither touched the food Vanessa had set out. Mom, we need to talk about your health, Simone began, her voice taking on a tone of exaggerated patience. I'm really worried about you. Your memory has been getting worse. You've been forgetting appointments, repeating yourself, getting confused about basic things. And I found medications in your desk that you don't even remember taking. So that was her play. Simone was going to find the pills she'd planted and use them as evidence. What medications? Vanessa asked. The anxiety medication, Mom. Alprazolam. A pretty serious dosage. The fact that you don't even remember being prescribed them is exactly what I'm talking about. You're not okay. Marcus leaned forward. Ms. Mitchell, Simone has been really stressed about this. We think it might be time to consider getting you some help. A facility where you can be cared for properly. There it was. They wanted to put her in a nursing home. Vanessa felt her anger rising, but forced herself to stay calm. A facility? You mean a nursing home? We prefer to call it an assisted living community, Simone said smoothly. Somewhere you'll be safe, where medical professionals can monitor you. You can't keep living alone like this, Mom. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if you forget to turn off the stove? I've never forgotten to turn off the stove. You don't remember forgetting, Simone said, her voice taking on a patronizing edge. That's the problem, Mom. Your memory is unreliable. You can't trust your own mind anymore. Vanessa looked at her daughter. Really looked at her. The cold calculation in Simone's eyes, the way she was delivering these cruel words with such practiced concern. This was not the daughter she'd raised. Or maybe it was. And Vanessa had been blind to the truth all along. And what happens to my house if I go into a facility? Vanessa asked quietly. My savings? My assets? We'd have to sell the house, Marcus said, as if this was obvious. Use the money for your care. And since Simone is your power of attorney, she'd manage your finances, make sure you're taken care of. That's very thoughtful of you both, Vanessa said, her voice carefully neutral. But I'm not going into a nursing home. I'm 42 years old and in perfect health. Simone's expression hardened. Mom, you're not thinking clearly. You're exactly the kind of person who doesn't realize they need help. That's part of the disease. What disease? What are you diagnosing me with, Simone? Early onset dementia, obviously. Maybe Alzheimer's. We don't know for sure without proper testing, but the signs are all there. The forgetfulness, the confusion, the medication you don't remember taking. Because I never took it. Vanessa's control snapped. I never took that medication because I was never prescribed it. Someone put those pills in my desk to make me look incompetent. Simone's face flickered, just for a second, with something that looked like panic, before the concerned mask slipped back into place. Mom, you're getting paranoid now. Do you hear yourself? You think someone is framing you? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're not well. She should be in a nursing home with her dementia. Simone stood up, her voice rising. She's losing her mind and she doesn't even know it. She can't take care of herself anymore. The words hung in the air, cruel and final, and they were caught on 3 separate recording devices. From upstairs came the sound of a door opening, and Denise appeared at the top of the stairs. I think I've heard enough. Simone whirled around, her face going pale. Aunt Denise? What are you doing here? Watching my sister's back, Denise said coldly, coming down the stairs with her phone in her hand. Watching you try to gaslight her, manipulate her, and steal from her. And I've got it all recorded. Marcus stood up quickly. We should go. Yes, you should, Vanessa said, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. But not before you hear this. I know about the money you stole. I know about the fake prescription. I know about all of it, Simone. And I've protected myself. I don't know what you're talking about, Simone said, but her voice wavered. You're no longer my power of attorney. You're no longer in my will. You have no access to my finances. And if you don't return every penny you stole, I'm going to the police with all the evidence I have, and believe me, I have plenty. Simone's face crumpled, and for just a moment, Vanessa saw a flash of the daughter she'd once known, scared, caught, ashamed. But then Marcus grabbed Simone's arm. Don't say anything else. We're leaving. And Ms. Mitchell, you'll be hearing from our lawyer. No, Vanessa said quietly. You'll be hearing from mine, and possibly from the police. Get out of my house. After they left, Vanessa collapsed into a chair, her whole body shaking. Denise wrapped her arms around her sister. You did it. You stood up to her. She's my daughter, Vanessa whispered. How did it come to this? I don't know, honey. But you protected yourself. That's what matters now. Vanessa nodded, but her heart was broken. She'd survived her daughter's betrayal, but the cost was losing her daughter. The week after the confrontation, Vanessa learned exactly how deep Simone's deception had gone. Camille Jefferson's investigator, a former FBI agent named Lawrence Stone, compiled a report that made Vanessa's blood run cold. She sat in Camille's office on a gray Tuesday morning, reading through the findings while Denise sat beside her, squeezing her hand. Simone had been planning this for over a year. It started shortly after she graduated from Howard. She'd applied for dozens of jobs and been rejected from all of them, something she'd never told her mother. Instead of being the successful graduate launching her career, Simone had been unemployed, drowning in credit card debt from maintaining an expensive lifestyle she couldn't afford. That's when she'd met Marcus. Marcus Thornton, it turned out, was not a successful investment banker. He was a con artist with a record: fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. He'd been arrested twice, served time once, and had a pattern of targeting vulnerable women and their families. He found Simone, Lawrence explained, his voice matter of fact. Probably through social media, saw she came from money, saw her mother owned property in a valuable D.C. neighborhood. He cultivated the relationship, convinced her that her mother was standing in the way of her rightful inheritance, and together they hatched a plan. To have me declared incompetent, Vanessa said numbly. Exactly. If they could convince a court that you had early-onset dementia and couldn't manage your affairs, Simone would be appointed as your guardian. As guardian, she'd control your finances, your property, everything. She could put you in the cheapest care facility she could find, sell your townhouse, drain your accounts, and you'd have no legal recourse to stop her. But I'm not incompetent, Vanessa said. I have a clean bill of health from my doctor. Which is why they were building a false medical history for you, Camille interjected. The planted medications, the gaslighting about your memory, the public comments about your confusion. They were creating a paper trail and witness testimony that would support a competency claim. If they'd gone to court before you discovered what was happening, they might have succeeded. Denise's face was furious. How many people fall for this? How many families destroy elderly parents with this exact scheme? More than you'd think, Lawrence said grimly. Elder abuse is epidemic, and it's usually perpetrated by family members. The difference here is that Vanessa is young and caught it early. Most victims are in their 70s or 80s, actually do have some cognitive decline, and by the time anyone realizes what's happening, the damage is done. Vanessa felt sick. What happens now? Now we present all of this to the police, Camille said. We have evidence of theft, fraud, identity theft with the fake prescription, and conspiracy. This is serious criminal behavior. The question is, do you want to press charges against your daughter? That was the question that had been eating at Vanessa for a week. Could she send her own child to prison? I need time to think about it, Vanessa said. You don't have much time, Camille warned. Marcus knows he's been caught. He's probably planning his exit strategy. If he convinces Simone to run, you may never recover the money she stole, and he'll move on to his next victim. What if I could get Simone to cooperate? Vanessa asked. To testify against Marcus, return the money, agree to get help. Would that change things? Lawrence and Camille exchanged glances. It would depend on the prosecutor, Camille said carefully. But yes, if Simone cooperates, provides evidence against Marcus, and shows genuine remorse, she might be able to avoid prison time. Probation, restitution, community service possibly. But Ms. Mitchell, you need to understand. Your daughter may not be the victim here. She may have been an equal partner in this scheme. I need to talk to her, Vanessa said. Alone. One last time. I need to know if there's anything left of the daughter I raised. Against everyone's advice, Vanessa reached out to Simone through a carefully worded text. We need to talk. Just the two of us. No lawyers, no Marcus. One last conversation before this goes any further. Please. Simone agreed to meet at a coffee shop in DuPont Circle, neutral territory. Vanessa arrived early, sitting at a corner table with her back to the wall, her phone recording in her pocket, Denise waiting outside in the car in case anything went wrong. Simone arrived 10 minutes late, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Dark circles under her eyes, her usually immaculate appearance disheveled. She slid into the chair across from Vanessa without ordering anything. I don't have much time, Simone said. Marcus is waiting in the car. Of course he is, Vanessa said. He doesn't want you talking to me without him controlling the narrative. Simone's jaw tightened. What do you want, Mom? I want to understand. That's all. I need to know how my daughter, the little girl I raised alone, who I gave everything to, ended up stealing from me and trying to have me declared incompetent so she could take everything I've built. You don't understand, Simone said, her voice bitter. You never understood. You were always so proud of yourself, working at that nonprofit, making a difference. Meanwhile, I graduated with honors from Howard and couldn't get a job anywhere. Do you know how that feels? To do everything right and still fail? So you decided to steal from me? I decided to take what should have been mine anyway. Simone's voice rose, then lowered when other customers glanced over. That townhouse, your savings, all of it. I'm your only child. It would all come to me eventually. Why should I have to wait until you die? Why should I struggle while you sit on hundreds of thousands of dollars? Vanessa felt like she was looking at a stranger. Because it's mine. Because I earned it. Because that's how life works, Simone. You don't get to steal your inheritance early just because you're impatient. You don't get it, Simone said, tears forming in her eyes. But Vanessa couldn't tell if they were real or manipulative. Marcus showed me that I was being taken advantage of, that you were holding me back, keeping me dependent. He said families like ours were supposed to take care of each other, share resources. But you hoarded everything while I was drowning in debt. I offered to help you with your debt, Vanessa said quietly. Multiple times, you told me you had it under control. You lied to me about having a job, lied about being fine. How was I supposed to help you when you wouldn't tell me the truth? Because asking you for help meant admitting I failed. It meant proving that you were right, that I couldn't make it on my own, that I needed Mommy to rescue me. Simone's voice cracked. Do you know what that feels like? To be 33 years old and still need your mother? You're 23, not 33. And there's no shame in needing help, Simone. The shame is in what you did instead. Simone wiped her eyes. What happens now? Are you going to have me arrested? That depends on you, Vanessa said. I know about Marcus, his record, his pattern of targeting families like ours. I know he manipulated you, convinced you this was acceptable. And I know you made your own choices, but I also believe part of you is still my daughter, still the girl who brought me dandelions from the playground and told me you loved me every night before bed. Mom, let me finish. I'm offering you one chance. One. You testify against Marcus, you return every penny you stole, you agree to therapy and staying away from him permanently, and I won't press charges. But if you choose him over making this right, if you run or refuse to cooperate, I will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. You'll go to prison, Simone. Is Marcus worth that? Simone sat silently, tears streaming down her face. He said you'd try to turn me against him. He said you'd manipulate me, make me think he was the bad guy when really you're the one trying to control my life. Is that what you believe? I don't know what I believe anymore, Simone whispered. I'm so tired, Mom. I'm so tired of pretending, of lying, of being someone I'm not. But I'm also terrified. Marcus said if I betrayed him, if I cooperated with you, he'd make sure everyone knew what I did. He'd ruin me. He's already ruining you, Vanessa said firmly. Can't you see that? You're 23 years old, facing potential federal charges, throwing away your entire future for a con artist who doesn't love you. He loves your access to my money. The moment that access is gone, he'll move on to his next victim. You don't know that. I know his pattern, Simone. The investigator found 3 other women, 3 other daughters he convinced to steal from their mothers. 2 are in prison right now. 1 killed herself because she couldn't live with what she'd done. Is that the future you want? Simone's face went white. He said I was different. He said what we had was real. That's what he told all of them. Vanessa reached across the table, taking her daughter's hands. Baby, I know I'm not perfect. I know I probably wasn't there enough when you were growing up, because I was working so hard to provide for us. I know I probably put too much pressure on you to succeed. But I have always loved you. And I'm begging you, please don't let this man destroy you. For a long moment, Simone just cried, her shoulders shaking. Then she looked up, her eyes red and swollen. If I cooperate, if I testify against Marcus, will you ever forgive me? I don't know, Vanessa answered honestly. Right now, I'm too hurt to think about forgiveness. But I can tell you this. If you do the right thing now, if you take responsibility and work to make amends, there might be a chance for us someday. If you choose him, if you continue down this path, I will consider you dead to me. Those are your options. Simone pulled her hands back and stood up. I need to think. You have 24 hours, Vanessa said. After that, I'm going to the police with everything I have. Make your choice, Simone. Choose wisely. Simone left without another word, and Vanessa sat alone in the coffee shop, feeling like she'd just said goodbye to her daughter. Maybe she had. The next 18 hours were agony. Vanessa couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, could barely function. She kept checking her phone, hoping for a message from Simone, dreading the moment she'd have to follow through on her threat. Denise stayed with her, making tea, putting on mindless TV shows, just being present. Whatever happens, you did the right thing, Denise said around midnight. You gave her a chance. That's more than a lot of people would do. What if she chooses him? Vanessa whispered. What if I have to send my own daughter to prison? Then you do it. Because enabling her would be worse. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. At 6:47 a.m., Vanessa's phone rang. Simone's number. Her hands shook as she answered. Hello? Mom. Simone's voice was small, broken. Can you come get me? I'm at the Starbucks on Wisconsin Avenue. I left Marcus. I'm ready to tell you everything. Simone sat in Camille Jefferson's office 3 hours later, Vanessa beside her, as she laid out everything. The investigator recorded every word. Marcus had found her on Instagram, commented on her graduation posts, struck up a conversation. He was charming, attentive, seemed genuinely interested in her struggles. When she confided about her debt and job rejections, he didn't judge. He sympathized, shared his own stories of financial hardship. He made me feel understood, Simone said quietly. Like finally someone saw how hard I was trying. Mom, you were always so successful, so together. I felt like a failure in comparison. Marcus made me feel like it wasn't my fault. The relationship progressed quickly. Within months, Marcus was suggesting that Vanessa was the problem, that she was selfish for not sharing her wealth, that she was holding Simone back, that she probably had more money than she admitted. He started planting ideas, Simone continued, asking questions about your finances, your house, your health. When I mentioned you'd forgotten where you parked once, He latched onto it. Said that was a sign of early dementia. Said we needed to act fast to protect your assets before you lost everything to medical bills. Marcus researched how to execute a guardianship scam. He taught Simone how to gaslight her mother, how to create false medical evidence, how to steal small amounts that wouldn't be noticed immediately. He said it wasn't really stealing because it would be mine anyway, Simone said, shame thick in her voice. He said we were just accelerating the inevitable. I knew it was wrong, but I was so deep in debt, so desperate, and he made it sound almost reasonable. The plan was to have Vanessa declared incompetent, sell the townhouse, drain the accounts, put Vanessa in a cheap facility, and then Marcus and Simone would disappear, probably to another state where they'd target another family. When did you realize he was using you? Vanessa asked. Last night. After I left the coffee shop, he was furious. Said I'd talked too long, that you'd manipulated me, that I was weak. Then Simone's voice broke. He said if I didn't stick to the plan, he'd frame me for everything. Said he had evidence that made it look like this was all my idea, that he was just the supportive boyfriend who didn't know what I was doing. That's when I realized he never loved me. I was just a tool. He had a contingency plan to betray you, Lawrence said grimly. We found evidence of that on his computer. Multiple scenarios where he'd throw you under the bus and walk away clean. You were never his partner, Ms. Carter. You were his patsy. Simone dissolved into tears. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I destroyed everything. I destroyed us. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I am so sorry. Vanessa didn't reach for her daughter. She couldn't. Not yet. What you did was unforgivable, Simone. You didn't just steal money. You tried to steal my autonomy, my dignity, my life. You were going to lock me away and let everyone think I was losing my mind. I don't know if I can ever get past that. I know, Simone whispered. But, Vanessa continued, you're here. You left him. You're telling the truth. That counts for something. Not enough to erase what you did, but something. Over the next week, Simone cooperated fully. She provided passwords, bank records, text messages, recordings of conversations with Marcus. She testified before a grand jury. She returned $31,000, everything that was left after Marcus had taken his expenses. Marcus was arrested at his apartment, trying to flee with suitcases full of cash and 3 fake IDs. Federal charges were filed: wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, elder abuse. With Simone's testimony, the case was airtight. The prosecutor offered Simone a plea deal: 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, mandatory therapy, and full restitution of the remaining stolen money through a payment plan. You're lucky, Camille told her bluntly. Your mother's mercy is the only reason you're not facing prison time. Don't waste this chance. 6 months later, spring had come to Washington, D.C., transforming the city with cherry blossoms and warm breezes. Vanessa stood in her townhouse, which she'd decided to keep after all, preparing for a small gathering. Not a party exactly. More of a memorial service for the relationship that had died, and a tentative celebration of what might be rebuilding. The past 6 months had been transformative. Marcus was convicted on all charges and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. 3 of his previous victims testified at his sentencing, and the judge called him a predator who preys on family bonds and exploits them for profit. Vanessa attended the sentencing, sitting in the gallery, watching the man who'd almost destroyed her family be led away in shackles. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger. Just relief that he was gone. Simone had moved out of D.C. entirely, taking a job in Philadelphia with a nonprofit that worked with at-risk youth. It was entry-level, barely paid anything, but it was honest work. She lived in a tiny studio apartment, attended therapy twice a week, and called Vanessa every Sunday. The calls were stilted at first. Awkward. What do you say to your daughter who tried to steal your life? What does a daughter say to the mother she betrayed? But slowly, painfully. They were finding their way to something that resembled a relationship. Not the relationship they'd had before. That was gone forever, killed by lies and betrayal. But something new. Something more honest, if less comfortable. "I'm not saying I forgive you," Vanessa had told Simone during one of their calls. "I don't know if I ever fully will. But I'm willing to try to understand. I'm willing to acknowledge that you were young, struggling, and manipulated by someone evil. That doesn't excuse what you did, but it provides context." "I don't deserve your understanding," Simone had replied, her voice thick with tears. "But I'm grateful for it anyway." Vanessa had also started her own therapy, working through the trauma of being gaslit by her own child, processing the violation of trust, learning to set boundaries. "You can love someone and still protect yourself from them," her therapist, Dr. Lisa Kwan, had told her. "Those aren't mutually exclusive. You can grieve the daughter you thought you had while accepting the reality of who she actually is." That distinction had been liberating. Today's gathering was small, just family and close friends. Denise, of course, who'd been Vanessa's rock through everything. Regina, who'd helped Vanessa process the grief and anger. A few colleagues from work. And via video call, Simone. They'd agreed that Simone wouldn't come in person yet. Too soon, too raw. But she could participate virtually, could be part of this moment of closure and renewal. Vanessa had turned 43 last month, but this felt like the real celebration. Not of another year lived, but of survival. Of coming through hell and choosing not to become bitter. "Thank you all for being here," Vanessa said as everyone gathered in her living room. The same room where, 6 months ago, Simone had sneered about nursing homes and dementia. "I want to acknowledge that this past year has been the hardest of my life. I learned things about people I loved that I never wanted to know. I discovered capacities for cruelty I didn't think existed in my own family." On the laptop screen, Simone's face was a mask of pain and shame. "But I also learned things about myself," Vanessa continued. "I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can face betrayal and not be destroyed by it, that I can choose grace without being a doormat, that forgiveness is a process, not a destination." She looked at the screen, at her daughter's face. "Simone, I want you to hear this. What you did was unforgivable. And yet, I'm working toward forgiveness anyway. Not because you've earned it, you haven't. Not because our relationship will ever be what it was. It won't. But because holding on to this anger would poison me, not you. So I'm choosing to let it go, piece by piece, day by day. I'm choosing to remember that you were manipulated, that you were struggling, that you made terrible choices, but you're trying to make better ones now." Simone was openly crying on the screen. "Thank you, Mom. I don't deserve—" "Stop saying that," Vanessa interrupted gently. "Stop saying you don't deserve things. That's the mindset that made you vulnerable to Marcus in the first place. Believing you didn't deserve my help, didn't deserve success, didn't deserve good things unless you took them. You do deserve good things, Simone. You deserve to rebuild your life. You deserve to learn from this and become better. That's what I want for you." "I'm trying," Simone whispered. "Every day, I'm trying to be the person you raised me to be. The person I should have been all along. I know you are, and that's enough for now." After the gathering wound down and people began leaving, Denise stayed behind to help clean up. "You're really doing it," Denise said as they loaded the dishwasher. "You're really forgiving her." "I'm really trying to," Vanessa corrected. "Some days are harder than others. Some days I'm still so angry I can barely breathe. Other days, I remember her as a little girl, and my heart breaks for both of us. It's complicated." "It's allowed to be complicated," Denise said. "There's no handbook for how to handle your child trying to steal your life." "No," Vanessa agreed with a wry smile. "There's really not." Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Ms. Mitchell, This is Sarah Thornton. I'm one of Marcus's previous victims. I was at his sentencing and heard your victim impact statement. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for having the courage to press charges and testify. Because of you, he can't hurt anyone else. Because of you, I found the courage to start therapy and work on forgiving myself for being fooled by him. You saved lives by stopping him. I hope you know that. Vanessa showed the text to Denise, feeling tears prick her eyes. See? Denise said softly. Good came from this nightmare. Not enough good to justify what you went through. But something. Something, Vanessa agreed. 1 year after the birthday party that changed everything, Vanessa did something she'd been planning for months. She started a nonprofit organization called Family First, Fraud Never, a resource center for families dealing with financial elder abuse, particularly abuse perpetrated by family members. The statistics she'd learned during her ordeal were staggering. Every year, billions of dollars were stolen from elderly Americans by their own children, grandchildren, and relatives. Most cases were never reported because victims were too ashamed or too loyal to family to press charges. Vanessa wanted to change that. Her organization offered free legal consultations, support groups, educational workshops on recognizing the warning signs of financial abuse, and advocacy for stronger laws protecting vulnerable adults. The response was overwhelming. Within 3 months, they'd helped 47 families navigate similar situations. Within 6 months, they'd successfully lobbied for new legislation in Maryland and Virginia, strengthening penalties for family members who committed financial fraud against relatives. Vanessa found purpose in the pain. Every family she helped felt like justice, not just for herself, but for all the victims who never got their chance to fight back. Simone, in Philadelphia, followed the organization's work from a distance. She sent her mother a text on the 1-year anniversary of the confrontation. I'm proud of you, Mom. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into something that helps people. That's who you are, someone who builds instead of destroys. I'm sorry I forgot that. I'm sorry I became a destroyer for a while. I'm trying to be a builder now, too. Vanessa replied, I see you trying. Keep going. They still talked every Sunday. The conversations were getting easier, more natural. Simone shared details about her work, her therapy, her slow process of rebuilding her credit and her self-esteem. Vanessa shared updates about the nonprofit, about Denise's new relationship, about the garden she was planting in her small backyard. They were learning to be in each other's lives again. Not as mother and daughter. Not yet. Maybe not ever in the way they'd been before. But as two women connected by blood and history, trying to heal from a shared trauma. During one call, about 14 months after everything had fallen apart, Simone said something that surprised Vanessa. I think, in a weird way, Marcus did me a favor. How so? Vanessa asked carefully. He showed me who I could become if I let bitterness and entitlement control me. He showed me how easy it is to justify terrible things when you convince yourself you're a victim. And hitting rock bottom, losing everything, facing the consequences, it forced me to actually grow up. To take responsibility, to stop blaming you or the world for my problems. That's very mature of you to recognize, Vanessa said. I'm 24 now, Simone said with a small laugh. About time I started being mature. I wasted my early 20s being awful. I'd like my late 20s to be different. They can be. You get to decide who you become from here. Who are you becoming, Mom? From all this? Vanessa thought about that question. Someone more cautious, I guess. Someone who trusts less easily, but also someone who knows her own strength. Someone who won't be a victim. Someone who turns pain into purpose. I want to be like that, Simone said quietly. Someday, I want to take what I did, what happened to me, and turn it into something meaningful. Maybe work with other young people who are vulnerable to manipulation. I don't know yet. But I want my life to mean something beyond just surviving my mistakes. That's a good goal, Vanessa said. I support that. 2 years after the birthday party, Vanessa received an email that made her sit down and read twice to make sure she understood it correctly. It was from a television producer. They wanted to do a segment on her nonprofit for a national news show. They wanted to interview her about her experience, about family financial abuse, about how she'd turned her trauma into advocacy. This could help so many people, Regina said when Vanessa called to discuss it. Your story could prevent other families from going through what you went through. But it means going public with everything, including Simone's role. Does Simone know? I'm about to call her. The conversation with Simone was difficult. Vanessa explained the opportunity, the potential impact, but also the reality that Simone's actions would be part of the story. I understand if you don't want me to do it, Vanessa said. Your privacy matters too. Simone was quiet for a long moment. Then, do it, Mom. Tell the whole story. I deserve whatever judgment comes from people knowing what I did. And if my stupidity and cruelty can help even one person recognize the warning signs before they go as far as I did, then maybe something good can come from it. Are you sure? I'm sure. I'm not proud of what I did, but I'm trying to own it, accept it, learn from it. Having it out there publicly will be hard, but hiding it forever would be harder. Tell the truth, Mom. All of it. The segment aired 3 months later. Vanessa sat in her living room with Denise, watching herself on television talking about the birthday party, the planted pills, the gaslighting, the confrontation. The producers had disguised Simone's identity, blurred her face in photos, changed her name. But the story was clear. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Vanessa's nonprofit received hundreds of emails from people sharing similar stories, thanking her for speaking up, asking for help. They received donations that allowed them to expand services. Other states reached out wanting to implement similar programs. And buried in the flood of messages was one from Simone. You were incredible, Mom. Watching you tell our story without anger, without bitterness, just with truth and purpose. I'm in awe of you. I'm so sorry for what I put you through, and I'm so proud of who you've become despite it. Or maybe because of it. I love you. Vanessa read that message 3 times, tears streaming down her face. I love you too, she texted back. We're going to be okay. Both of us. Somehow. Vanessa stood in the conference room of a gleaming office building in downtown Philadelphia, looking out at the city skyline. She was here for a speaking engagement, giving a keynote address about family financial abuse at a national conference on elder law. But first, she had a lunch meeting. The restaurant was upscale, the kind of place Vanessa never would have felt comfortable in before all of this. But she'd learned to take up space, to own her expertise, to accept that she'd earned her place at tables like this. Simone walked in right on time, professional in a navy blazer and slacks, her natural hair styled in neat twists. She was 26 now, and she looked good, healthy, more confident than she'd been at 23, but with a humility that hadn't existed before. They hugged, briefly, carefully, but genuinely. Thanks for meeting me, Simone said as they sat down. I know your schedule is packed. I always have time for you, Vanessa said, and meant it. They ordered, making small talk about Simone's job. She'd been promoted to program coordinator at her nonprofit, was considering going back to school for a master's in social work. She'd been in a relationship for 6 months with someone who knew her whole story and loved her anyway. I told him everything, Simone said. On our 3rd date, I figured if he was going to run, better to find out early. But he didn't run. He said everyone has a past, and what matters is who you choose to be now. He sounds wise, Vanessa said. He is. You'd like him. Maybe someday you could meet him? It was a tentative question, an olive branch. I'd like that, Vanessa said. When you're ready. After lunch, as they stood outside the restaurant preparing to go their separate ways, Simone grabbed her mother's hand. Mom, I need to say something. I know I've apologized a million times, and I know apologies don't undo what I did. But I want you to know. I think about it every day. What I did to you. How I almost destroyed you. And every day I try to live in a way that honors the second chance you gave me. Vanessa squeezed her daughter's hand. I see that, baby. I see you trying. And I'm proud of you for it. Do you think... Simone's voice wavered. Do you think we'll ever really be okay? Like, mother-daughter okay? Or is that gone forever? Vanessa looked at this young woman who'd been her whole world, who'd broken her heart, who was slowly, painfully, earning her way back into her mother's trust. I think we're building something new, Vanessa said honestly. It's not the relationship we had before. That's gone. You're right about that. But this new thing we're building, it's based on truth instead of illusion, on earned trust instead of assumed trust, on reality instead of idealization. And I think, in the long run, that might actually be stronger. I hope so, Simone whispered. Me too, baby. Me too. They hugged again, longer this time, and Vanessa felt something shift. Not forgiveness, exactly. Not yet. But something close. Acceptance, maybe. Peace. As she walked to her speaking engagement, Vanessa thought about the journey that had brought her here. From that devastating birthday party to this moment of tentative reconciliation. From victim to survivor to advocate. She'd lost so much. Her trust, her innocence, her belief that family was always safe. But she'd gained things too. Strength she didn't know she had. Purpose that came from pain. And a daughter who, despite everything, was learning to be a better person. Was it worth it? No. She'd never choose this path again. The cost was too high. But since she hadn't had a choice, since this had been forced upon her, at least she'd made something meaningful from it. At least she'd survived with her dignity intact. Her heart still capable of love despite its scars, her spirit still fighting for justice. At least she'd turned the birthday from hell into a catalyst for change, not just in her own life, but in the lives of hundreds of families her nonprofit had helped. That had to count for something. That had to mean something. As Vanessa took the stage and looked out at the audience of lawyers, advocates, and fellow survivors, she felt truly at peace for the first time in 3 years. She'd been betrayed by her own daughter at a birthday party. But she'd rebuilt herself into something stronger. And that was a victory no one could take from her.